Hi, welcome to your first lesson on Scratch. Scratch, unlike a lot of other programming languages, is what we call a visual-based programming language, where we don't use text, we don't type in text to issue commands, we use blocks to issue them. So Scratch was developed by Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, for their undergraduate program in computer programming. So, you know, it's a fairly well-used program by now a number of schools. This is the first programming language that you're going to learn here at UAG. So this is the first thing that you see when you, this screen is the first thing that you see when you come to Scratch. In order to create a new project, so first of all, you can look around here. There's some projects that other people have created. And if you ever wanted to go into a project, you can just hit click on it. And what's nice about Scratch is that it allows you to see other people's code, essentially. So it will load the project up. And then in order to get it to play, so this is a pretty large project, it seems like. It looks like it's loading a lot of different things here. Once this loads up, you can see what this looks like, the Scratch project looks like, by pressing the green flag here. So the green flag always initiates the code that is written, and then blocked in. And then the red stop sign, as you might imagine, is it stops the code from running. So here, if I press the green flag, it's here and it's also in the middle of the screen. So if I press this, we can see exactly what. So this little character comes in, he's talking. It looks like there's a counter that's going off. I'm not really sure why. But this is just one of the projects. I can always stop it by hitting stop right here. Okay, and here is a look at what the code looks like. So here are all these blocks that you use, and this is a fairly complicated one. We're going to talk a little bit about the interface of Scratch in just a minute here. But this is a way for you to view what other people have done. So Scratch is a nice program because it's a nice system because it allows you to share things both with your teacher and with other people in the Scratch environment, or in the Scratch community rather. All right, so here you are, you have logged in, you've made an account, you want to go to create, all right? And it brings you to a brand new project. It will open up a brand new project here. So here, the first thing you want to do is title. Go ahead and title your project. So maybe I've asked you to put a certain title on it. Maybe you just type something in that helps you figure out what the assignment is later on when you're looking at a list of all of your projects. So you're going to title it first, and the first thing I want you to notice is this little guy right here. His name is Scratchy. He's always the default sprite that you get to when you start a new project. You can change the sprite or delete Scratchy by going to, so here, right, this area of the interface is called the sprite palette. So here you can get information about Scratchy. He's starting at the coordinates 0, 0. He starts oriented to the right here. I'm not really sure what can drag in player, but maybe we'll figure that out a little bit later. And I can unclick this show button so that he doesn't show. All right. You might want to do this later on if you want a sprite to appear later on in your program. So you can click the show button and ask it to show up a little bit later. You can also change your sprites here. So I like to go to the fantasy sprites because they're kind of neat. Like Nano is a pretty fun one. It's taking a little bit of time to load here, but and Gobo is here. Giga is really nice. So if I click on here, you'll see that some of the sprites, you'll get information about the sprites. Some of them have what we call costumes, and we're going to talk about that later on. But if you click another sprite here, you can go ahead and grab the sprite. And if you want to delete Scratchy, you can go on Scratchy right here and click. I think you have to right click on it and click delete. Okay, so if you want Pico instead, you can click on him. Now if you want to change his size, you can always go to the costumes tab here. You notice there's 3 tabs up here. And you can click on him and you can, let's see if I can select him. So I clicked and dragged across him to select all of him, and I can change it. So if it changes here, it's going to change over here. Okay. Another thing that you will want to notice is that this is called the stage. The background is called the stage. So here is a place where we can change the backgrounds. We can click here and add any sort of backgrounds right here. Okay. So Pico can be walking in, walking along a canyon here if you want him to.
Okay, one more thing that's really important regarding your sprite is that you want to make sure that it's centered. To demonstrate, I have this block here that says go to x0, y0, which should be right here in the center. But if I click on the flag to activate it, you'll notice that Scratchy doesn't move. If I move him somewhere else and then activate the flag, he goes way off center. And the reason why that's happening is, I know it's hard to see, but there's a little cross right here that shows the center of the sprite. And that when you set a sprite to go to somewhere, that's what it moves with. So the way that we manually set it is by clicking on this, set costume center. It gives you a cross. That's where it is now. We're going to click it and drag it onto Scratchy, right in the center of him. Okay? You don't have to save or anything. You just go back to scripts. And now if we move him off and click on the flag, he'll go to the center as intended.
Okay, so another thing that I'd like you to notice is, so this was called the sprite palette right here. This is where we can change the backdrop, this section right here. Usually we're on, we put the blocks, and Mr. Chen's going to talk about that in a second. We put the blocks of code. These are all the coding blocks right here. This is the way that you're going to tell the program what you would like it to do. But this area right here is called the stage. Now, the first thing I want you to notice is that when you move your sprite around, you see these X and Y values, they're changing right here. Okay, so this is just like what you have seen when you graph lines. We call this a Cartesian coordinate. Remember, the x-axis is the horizontal axis and the y-axis is the vertical axis. So really, when you change the sprite's position, you want to be clear about where. So right now, the x and y coordinates right here are being tracked by the mouse right here. If I wanted to figure out where this is, I can pull it around right here and look at the position that you see below here. Now this is important because at certain points you're going to see right here, you might want to ask the sprite to go to a certain X and Y position. So here if I pull this block in and I tell it to run, it's going to tell Pico to go to that position. Okay. What you need to know is that the vertical axis goes from positive 180 to negative 180. And the horizontal, or the x-axis, goes from negative 240 to positive 240. Okay. When you open a new assignment, Scratchy, the default sprite, will always start at the origin, which is 0, 0. Okay.
Okay, so this center area right here is called the block palette. This contains all of your commands, every block that you're going to be dragging out. This here is called the script area, which is where you're going to be dragging your command blocks. For example, if I hold and select this move and drag it out here, we can now use it. If we click on it, it'll tell him to move 10 steps. You might notice that they have this funny shape that looks like they might connect, and that's because they do connect. So when you hover over it, you'll see that there's a little highlight which shows where it's about to get attached to, and it gets attached. To disattach them, you have to select the bottom one and drag it away. You might come across some blocks that have a little gap in the middle. Those you can put either things inside of them or outside of them.
How do you delete them finally?
It's a good question. If you no longer want to use this block, you can actually drag it out to here. You do not need to drag it back into the motion block. You can drag it into any color on the block palette and it goes away.
All right, thanks. Okay, let's look for a second at the toolbar up here. So from here, you can go to save. So as you're working through and you make changes, you always want to make sure to save. So right now, it's going to save this project called Untitled 3, which is not a good project. So maybe I just want, it's not a good name rather, so maybe I'll just want to say demo. So save now. I changed something about it. I hit save now. You can also, from this menu, you can go to My Stuff. You can save a copy of this so that you can maybe you have a program that you want to make changes to. So you keep the original program, but you want to make changes to another one. That's what, so you could save it like a copy of the program and then go into the copy and make the changes that you would like. You can upload a program that you've saved locally to your computer, or you can download the program to your computer. So here, if I want to go see my other projects, I can click here, and I have a lot of projects because I've been working on these things over the summertime. So you can see that the two projects that I opened a couple projects yesterday, so these were called Untitled. I can just delete these if I want to, like that, okay? So let's go back to the demo project right here. And actually what I wanted to do was click See Inside. So this is where I can make the changes. Now for edit, there were a couple things that, so if you want the block palette to be a lot bigger, you can always go to the small stage layout. You can also see before when I had made, so let's make a couple changes here so I can ask Pico to do these things. And again, if I press the go button right here, Pico will do those things. But also, by the way, you can rename your sprite by going to information and renaming it here. So if I want to call it Sally, I can do that. So now the little sprite is called Sally. Up here, since I made a change, usually there's an undelete here. So that's really important. If you've deleted something and you accidentally deleted something, you can undelete it there. Here, this right here changes what your cursor does. So right now my cursor is clicking and dragging like this, or it's allowing me to select different parts of the screen right here. But if I want it to make a duplicate, then I can click this right here. So right here, when my mouse is clicked here, it just duplicated the code right there, okay? Here it allows me to delete. So instead of pulling it, clicking and dragging, if I want to delete a whole bunch of code, I can click here, and then the next click that I have will delete the code, okay? Here these are, I'm not really sure, I've never used these before, but the grow and the shrink right here. Oh, it allows if you click on the sprite, it allows it to grow. So right here, these are the grow and the shrink area. So you can click on the sprite and it grows or shrinks. And then when you click away from it, your mouse is just a regular cursor. Okay. And that little key that little button on the toolbar allows you to learn a little bit more about how Scratch was developed and how Scratch is being used currently. And that's it. That's your first lesson on Scratch.